Good morning. For those of you who do not know me, I am a senior at Rice studying religion and studio art with a minor in creative writing. I plan on attending seminary to become a Unitarian Universalist Minister. While that is still While that is still very much the plan, over the last 4 years, I have rediscovered and nourished a deep love of art. I may have shown you my work for my art classes during coffee hour. I was always an artsy kid. I loved painting and crafting and everything I could get my hands on. I stopped taking art classes in 8th grade, but I came back to it my freshman year of college. I was taking these religion classes, and they were an existential crisis in a class, thinking about consciousness and cognition and how humans have grappled for thousands of years with the struggles of life. I needed to get out of my head and into my body. So I took a sculpture class, and then I declared the art major, and I just kept going. Art has taught me so many things. But what I want to focus on today is what art has taught me about mistakes. Art has taught me that taking risks and opening yourself up to making mistakes allows for more growth and enjoyment of life. My sophomore year, I was taking 2 studios at the same time, beginning painting and beginning drawing. I was in these 2 classes for over 12 hours a week, plus many more for homework. I did not know how to draw. While I had taken art classes in middle school, we had just used tracing tables and the grid method. I could not look at something and make it appear on the page. And certainly none of this plumbing, closing one eye and holding up your thumb and moving it around. I was an art major, and I didn't know how to draw. We drew a lot of still lifes, nonsensical ones with orbs and cones and boxes and random objects that only made sense to learn drawing skills. And I would choose the easiest view of these objects. I would spend what felt like double or triple the time drawing these things as some of my peers, staying late after class, coming in for hours in the evenings. We would get to critique day, and I would hang my drawing up on the wall next to everyone else's. And despite spending all this extra time, my drawing always felt, to me, the least developed. I could never get the proportions right, and I could never get the darkness I needed from the pencils. I felt like I was trying endlessly, just to have it not measure up to the other drawings on the wall. Learning how to draw was not easy, but it was made so much better by my fellow classmates and my professors. That room, with floors covered in graphite and charcoal, so dirty that I do not dare wear light-colored pants, the room covered in countless students' marks, intentional and mistaken, all blurred into one big mess, has become one of my favorite rooms at Rice. I have learned that there is nowhere else I would rather make a million mistakes than that room. Even when I saw nothing in the drawing I had hung that week, my peers would find something to compliment me on. For one still life, I was complimented on the contoured lines on a vase. The comment lasted probably 5 seconds, but that vase, or vase-ish, had taken me hours. And my heart fluttered, and I felt so much better about that piece. They gave me constructive criticism too, and it was so helpful. I knew that I was not drawing how I wanted to, but I did not know how to get from where I was to where I wanted to be. My peers and my professors helped me see the staircase, and they noticed when I had climbed a step. That noticing was what I needed. They saw the progress that felt invisible. I can draw now. My professor told us on the first day of class that by the end of the semester, we would be able to look at a vase of flowers and draw it, and people would know what it was. I did not believe him, but of course, he was right. I kept making drawings that I wasn't happy with. Instead of freezing, instead of dropping the class or the major, I kept trying. I kept showing up. I learned that the best way to make one right mark is with an eraser in hand and making 15 wrong marks, if that is what it takes. I learned to nudge, to keep erasing and redrawing, taking the distorted form on the paper towards the one I saw on the pedestal in front of me. I figured out how to leverage my materials to be what I needed. I learned to love the oh-so-messy mediums of ink and charcoal. I learned that the goal of having the paper be perfectly white, no smudges, no erase marks, was not one for me. I learned to enjoy this instead of fearing the moment I made a mistake. And I learned that sometimes I want a wonky drawing, that the wonky drawings are really fun to look and to make. Our academic grading system rewards perfection and memorization, and does not reward risk-taking or mistake-making. You get points off for mistakes. I have never seen a rubric with points for risks taken or mistakes learned from. My art classes reject that grading system, instead grading based on effort and growth. In that drawing class, I also learned that you do not grow from the easy path. Making a drawing that I know exactly how it will turn out is not interesting or enjoyable for me, and does not push me to grow. Making a drawing that I have questions and uncertainties about, one where I will make mistakes, even when they are so uncomfortable, has taught me much more. Making mistakes is hard, and the skill of being bad at something is not a skill often talked about. We value and reward people who are skilled, but we do not often reward people, adults, who are trying and making mistakes. I have heard the phrase, "You cannot teach an old dog new tricks." But I wonder if the truth lies in the dog or in the humans who do not get out the treat bag for his attempted tricks. Yes, it may be true that our ability to learn new skills decreases as we get older. But does that not make it even more impressive when we try new things? A story that reminds me of the beauty of mistakes is Sisyphus. After tricking the Greek gods, he was tortured with a rock he had to roll up a hill, only for it to time and time again roll down before he could reach the top. He then must return to the rock, walking down the hill, only to try again and again for eternity. Making mistakes can feel like a Sisyphean task. The messy medium of ink drawings, with no ability to erase, showed me that mistakes are a part of the art-making process. Ink drips from my quill onto my still pristine paper. I cannot erase it. I must instead embrace it, hatching lines here and there. And just as I think I have integrated the ink splotch, not making it invisible, but instead making it feel at home in the piece, another droplet somehow flings from my pen, and I must do it again and again and again. It is Sisyphean. When we think of an amateur, we think of someone who does not know what they are doing, who makes lots of mistakes, who is not good, who is not very committed. But the word amateur comes to us from French, where it means one who loves. Amateur and amour and amorous all come from the same Latin root of love. To be an amateur is to love something, to make mistakes, and to keep going anyways. To be an amateur is to not work towards profit or professionalism, but to keep doing this thing you love. I left a couple pages. Give me a second. There we go. I am an amateur. I am an amateur sewist. I am an amateur photographer, an amateur poet, an amateur cook. I am an amateur at country line dancing. I love it, not knowing the dance, but finding that person, calling out the moves, trying my best, and laughing when I step wrong. It is worth it for the feeling of momentum pulling my body around, me barely thinking about it, letting my body and physics take control, just as everyone else in the crowd is doing. I am an amateur at life. I love life. I love being in community and feeling that thing that is in us and between us and connecting us. I love seeing everything this great big earth has to offer. But loving life as an amateur also means making mistakes. My path is littered with mistakes. From spilling my coffee, to missing deadlines, to hurting people I love. Living a life that embraces mistakes, that asks what mistakes have to offer, means that I will always be facing the Sisyphean task of trying to be just a bit better, always making things right when I can. When I make another mistake, when the rock rolls back down the hill, I will turn around, not trudging back down, but standing tall, walking confidently to meet the task. We humans have somewhat of an affinity for Sisyphus. It is one of the Greek myths that I hear the most often. There is something relatable about endlessly trying and endlessly failing. Just as we think we have a handle on the task at hand, just as we see the crest of the mountain, the weight of the rock exceeds the force we are applying, and it tumbles back down. It feels never-ending, but maybe the torture has lost some of the power over the millennia. For every time Sisyphus has to push the rock up, only for it to roll back down, Sisyphus gets to walk downhill. He gets to look over the valley and appreciate all the other things happening. Maybe he hears a muse playing a harp a ways off. He feels the sand between his toes and it's shifting under his weight. He gets the sweet relief of walking downhill and without the weight of the rock. There is beauty and there is meaning for Sisyphus to find in his task. He must walk down the mountain to meet the boulder. It is his punishment. But he gets to find the beauty. It is his reward. We find beauty in lots of places. We cherish and applaud mediocre piano performances by young children sometimes. They're slow, they hit the wrong keys, and they don't play complicated music. But if I were to walk over to that piano right now and hit those keys, even after taking my fair share of piano lessons, y'all might stare. Maybe applaud awkwardly, a sparse couple claps at the end. There would probably be a palpable itch for it to be over. And it might be the topic of whispered conversation during coffee hour. There's this idea that once you reach a certain age, you cannot be mediocre, or heaven forbid, bad at something. There's this thought that you should have learned this already, or you shouldn't bother to try at all. And if you are to try, you should do it in private, with the door closed. You should only emerge from your room, instrument in hand, when you are good. And I think that is stupid. I think everyone should do more things that they are bad at. I want to hear your shaking fingers on the piano. I want to see your unskilled art. I want to see the thing that you drew and immediately wanted to tear out the page, crumple it up, and throw it away. I want to hear the song you sang when no one was home, the one that you sang as loud as you could. even that part where you forget the lyrics and you stumble through. I want to be standing in the kitchen when you make that dish and it burns so bad and you just want to throw the pot away. And you have to open up all of the doors and windows and turn on all of the fans to get the smell out. I want to read the poetry that you hide in the back of notebooks, or maybe it's in your notes app. The ones where the metaphor is not quite working right and it's full of questionable rhymes. I know that you have a dream that you wished you would chase when you were younger, when it was more acceptable to not be good. I encourage you, when you go home, to consider being bad at it. Just a little. You can do it with the door closed. I won't tell anyone. But eventually, when you are ready, open the door. The world has room for you and your bad art.